Hey and welcome, Miss Kira Speaks. Before we get started, I ask that you watch the video till the end, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Listen, I'm trying to make this a one-hitter quitter, first of all. Secondly, I will apologize for my lateness again, because as you can see, Halloween, your girl got kids. Video's not going up when it should have. We'll try again next time. May edit it and put it up tonight. May edit it and put it up in the morning. Turn on your notifications and you'll find out. So, we are back again for another episode of BMF, Season 1, Episode 6, titled Strictly Business. I'm going to try to keep it high energy, and I'm going to try to keep my volume up as much as possible without waking my neighbors because it's late. But last time I did one that was too low, somebody told me they couldn't hear me. So I turned the volume up on my phone. Hopefully you can hear me. So our quote to start off from Meech is, "The ambition is getting money past the king of the D. I wanted it so when we spread our wings, we could go anywhere we wanted without being seen." Then we also open with Big Meech narrating. "School was never his thing, but he always showed up for picture day. That's when everyone arrives looking clean and all G'd up. People spend a whole lot of time in school trying to learn to better themselves. Ain't much different than the streets. You learn how to count, do chemistry, and participate in PE. The biggest difference between the two are the goals. In the school of hard knocks, if you ain't graduated, your ass is dying." So as Big Meech is narrating this for us, we see them counting money, they are weighing, they are cooking, and they are getting rated. So then we see Meech pull up in his whip to the store. He talks to the kids in front, and when he goes in, you see the kids outside. They look nervous, they scurry. You want to know why? Why? Meech, he walks out. He looks, he drops his orange soda because we see Lamar with the shotgun and he gets to shooting. So Meech, he's got his boys there for protection. They return fire. He's all good. Now he's popping shit from the side of the car. Like, yeah, you better run. Okay, Meech. So Meech and Terry, I don't know if they were at Terry's house or their parents' house. We're going to call it Terry's house we're just going to leave it there. So Terry is concerned that Meech almost got shot, but Meech is like, but I didn't. So what about the rest of the family? They don't even know where Charles is staying, and they got to get Nikki and Mom out of there. So Meech asks if Mom's poked her head out of the room yet after what happened at the end of the last episode. He's like, he doesn't know, and he's not trying to see her, no way. So Meech is like, let's break it up into halvesies, quarters, bags, and eights. Terry thought that they were cooking and rocking like they always do. And Meech says they do not have the bodies or the time. But Terry does not want to throw away money because they already have a system in place. So he said people are always looking for a better place or product. He says Tiny is down for a break, and he turned it on to his cousin Q from the North End. So he's like, we can grow the business even more. They can't be seen in the streets because they will be sitting ducks for Lamar. So Meech says, come on, let's chop it up. So he can go meet Q at the spot they just copped. The spot, it's a record store. Q is waiting for him in the soul section. And he says Tiny told him about Meech, but he had no idea he was a kid. And Meech says his hustle makes up for whatever it is he's lacking. Not to mention, he got that work. So Q says, he put his ear to the street. He didn't like what he heard. Because he found out that Meech snaked his last plug. Meech is like, you've been in the streets long enough to know when you hear BS. And he's like, but you don't. Or no, he's like, you haven't. So he's like, youngin's always going to make mistakes, the kind that he can't afford. And Meech is like, wondering what he's talking about. He's like, I took the meeting out of respect for Tiny. I'm not saying never, but I'm definitely saying not right now. So Terry pops up on Mr. Ryan, his favorite teacher, and he's trying to get into the college fair, but he's not eligible because he's not a junior or a senior. So I guess he's in 10th grade. And they're at capacity. So he's like, he needs something because teacher's asking him what's going on. He's like, he needs something to focus his attention on. He's like, listen, can't get you in as a student, but I may need some help setting up the event, and I can introduce you to some admissions directors, including his old college roommate who represents Western Michigan University. So Terry thanks him and he asks, does he need to bring anything? And he's like, no. He asks him, does he need to do or bring anything? He's like, no, show up at the auditorium at 11 and be ready to discuss yourself as a person. So outside, him and his friend are joking around about him being teacher's pet or whatever. And we see that security was luckily on it because Lamar was outside waiting. He looks like fuck, and he drives off. So Lucille has locked herself in a room and she's crying, and Meech and Nicole, they knock. He asks if she's okay. He says he knows she's in there, and Nicole bought her some food. She's out, she's fine, she doesn't want anything. He's like, come on, Ma, it's an emergency. Lucille throws a photo at the door and she screams, I don't want nothing, go away. So Nicole says she hasn't been out the room or talked to nobody. She does not know what's wrong. Meech has an idea. I bet you do. So we're at the church and we see Pastor Snoop, and he's talking to some other guy, he said, who's staying there, running fast tail girls up in and out of there, and smoking his reefers. And Pastor Snoop has a church to protect, so homie compensates him and gives him a nice little chunk of change, only for Pastor Snoop to walk out there and give Charles, who's out there, $5. Says that's all he's got. Charles says he's just working for the Lord. Since when Charles work at the church? But anyway, Meech comes in, he tells him, it's Mom. So they leave. Charles is home. They're all there at dinner, everybody except for Lucille. And he said, he was up there for a while and she's not talking. Like, what is really going on? So after some pressing, Charles, he asked, he was speaking to Terry. Meech went to answer. He was like, your name is not Terry. So Terry finally admits that she found out he was selling drugs with Meech. He's like, you brought drugs into my house? No disrespect, Pops, but you ain't living here no more, Meech says. And Charles was about to go upside his head. Charles is like, you're not about to talk to me like that. So it's some people looking after them, and it's worse than before. And Nicole opens her mouth and she says, is it the guy from the mall? I mean, yeah, but damn, Nicole, you gonna tell the business? So Meech says no, but Nicole says someone stepped to Terry at the mall, and Meech suggests that Charles and Lucille take Nicole and go to Ohio for a minute. Charles ain't too keen on leaving the house that he built with his own hands, where he's currently not staying. So he walks out. Nicole's right behind him. Terry says, I knew we shouldn't have kidnapped Lamar's kid. And Meech was like, I ain't kidnapped nobody. And Terry's like, he's like, I gave her ice cream. Terry's like, we took her without her parents' permission. That is the definition of kidnapping. And Meech is like, okay, so soft kidnapping. Like, what the? I can't soft kidnapping, Meech? Where? How? So Lamar rolls up on Slick and the rest of the 12th Street, and he's like, he's about to hit up the Flannerys, and he wants them to distract the bodyguards. And Tiny's like, that's not our problem. It's a personal problem. So Lamar is like, you better shut the F up before I choke you again, like I did last time. Tiny pulls out the gun on him. So... oh, Tiny says, you got me effed up, and pulls the gun out of him. And Lamar laughs. He's like, you think I'm scared of your one pistol? He's like, add an ass. So they all pull out on him. So Slick steps up and tries to, hop into the middle of it. And they tell, Tiny tells him old school's time is up. And since you're rolling with him, so is yours. So we hear sirens, and it's Bryant. He tells Lamar to have Lionel Richie, aka Slick, take a hike. Bryant says he's got bodies turning up, people going MIA, and then a shooting this morning. And Lamar's like, he's a changed man. And Bryant's like, you're stupid. And stupid people always get caught. So Charles asks Terry what he and Demetrius did that required them to leave his house. he reminds him that he is also a father now. Super quick conversation, and the next thing you know, Terry and Meech are in the car and they're talking. And he's like, he didn't tell his dad anything, but he should. And Meech tells him that Q passed on them. Meech tells them, he says Pat's been bad-mouthing them. And Terry says to go back to what they know, selling 50s. And Meech says, you know, it makes no sense because Lamar's still on their head. So Terry is like, let's franchise our crew. Give them each a bag. Then they get their own people to move it. So, you know, that way they're out of the spotlight. So Meech is for it, but not with 5 bricks. So he says to give B-Mickie 1 and split the rest to 2. Give B-Mickie a brick, Terry asks. Meech says he's been here since day 1. And Terry's like, I'm not rewarding him for going MIA or for that JMO-ish. So he's like, just give it to him and we'll work out the rest. And T's like, I'm going to see how I feel about that. So Slick tries to calm Lamar down because he is hot. F them traders and F them light-skinned pretty boys, super security having asses. So he blames Slick for giving up the stash. He's like, they had Zoe and they were threatening to hurt her. So he says, you know, you can get everything back, you know, plus his family, but not right now because you're way too angry. So after he says after he patches things up with Mo again, they can turn Meech and Terry's water off for good. And he's like, you can live without a lot of stuff. No heat, get a blanket. No electricity, I forgot what he said. But if you cut off their water, they can't wash their dishes, they can't wash their ass, and they can't flush their toilet. So Lamar's like, I like that. But if it goes wrong, Meech and Terry won't be the only ones with their water cut off. Damn, Lamar, like that's all you have left. And that's how you gonna do Slick, but okay. So Kato and B-Mickie, they're still at it. They're still getting it popping. And when she gets up to go get a towel, there's a knock at the door. B-Mick goes to the door with his gun. It's Terry. Terry's like, put a shirt on, you little nigga. And he asked him, I hope that's not the gun that you used to take out J-Mo. And he's like, nah, he tossed it in the river. I hope not in the same place, right? Nah, I'm not stupid. He can't tell. Terry throws him a brick and says that they're going to show him some love with the price. And he's like, you bugging. And Terry's like, listen, is what it is. So then he gives him 2 more bricks to cook, and B-Mic's like, now I'm gonna show you, you know, some love on the price. So as Terry leaves, I think he's seen Kato's clothes on the chair. She pops out after he's gone. They're in business, whatever she has to say. Nobody really cares. So Lamar is at Mo's house. This dude. You can't be serious, she says. He's like, hear me out. There was nothing that he could do about the situation. Just give him time to make it up. And Mo is like, it'll be a cold day in hell. So he raises his voice and she basically tells him to get the F away from her house before she gets a restraining order. And he grabs her through the door. I mean, yokes her all up. She breaks free and she closes the door. He's banging the door and cussing and carrying on. Completely unhinged, which we knew would be the case in this episode. He sees Zoe in the window watching and he leaves. Terry is breaking up the pop product. He gathers everyone around. He talks about growth. It's graduation day. Everyone gets their own sack and everyone seems pleased. But Terry has to go. It's 11 o'clock and he's supposed to be at the college fair. He rushes on over to the college fair. He's late. Mr. Ryan asks him what happened. He was supposed to help set up. He apologizes and he introduces him to somebody named Mr. Talbert. He asks Terry a round of questions, and with each question that he asks, Terry keeps having flashbacks of things he had to deal with, like burying rocks. So after, like the 3rd question, he runs off. He can't do it. Mr. Ryan catches up with him. He's disappointed. He tells him basically to get his head back in the game. So Meech meets with Tiny, and it turns out he's the one that, persuaded him or gave him the idea to turn on Lamar. And Meech is upset about the meeting with Q. He wants Tiny to make him change his mind or else, basically, because Tiny was like, what you talking? So Mom, she's, we're home. She hears Charles playing it wasn't a piano, it was like a keyboard, like a Casio kind of keyboard. And she finally comes downstairs and he asks her how she's feeling. And she's like, both of our boys are wrapped up in the streets and she feels like a failure as a parent. I can understand that, Mom. So Charles, like, you know, they can still save Terry because he's going to school every day and taking care of his son. Man, they be doing me so wrong. And we thought like Lucille was delusional, but now she's got a dose of reality, and Charles is the one that's hanging on to the hope. So he thinks getting Terry away from Demetrius is the answer. He has all these suggestions, and Lucille's just shooting him down. Like, him and his brother have been attached at the hip from day one. You can send him away if he wants. He's only going to come back. Like, it is what it is. So Lucille asks, what about Demetrius? And Charles, he only has hope for Terry. He says he has to protect his family. It's just sad. Like I said, it's just sad the way they do Meech, because he really does love and care for his family. So the little baby drug dealers that they're using to push product are hungry. Kato says she's hungry, so she's like, let's make a coney run. They leave and Lamar robs one of the little kids. Terry calls a meeting and he reads them the riot act. Rules are created to guide you. How can we win if everyone is out here freestyling? Kato says that, you know, I thought you gave us the authority to manage as we see fit. Terry's like, you're wrong. So one of them steps to Terry and he flips. Meech has to pull him to the side and have a conversation with him. And Terry tells Mitch, you know, Lamar is the one who stole the stash yet again. And Meech is like, we have got to do something about him. So Meech is like, you know, pull the detail off of me. Terry's like, are you crazy? Like, he tried to shoot you before. He's like, yeah, but he's a lone wolf now. He's all by himself. So Lucille and Charles, they call Karen over and they're ready to take the $25K. She says the offer has been rescinded. They had a time limit. She did say 3 days. I remember that. I remember saying that. Charles says it's bullshit. He starts going ape shit. He's going off. Karen tries to defend herself. Lucille tries to calm him down. And then she's like, listen, I gotta go. Her assistant will send over the termination of representation papers. And like I said, Lucille tried to intervene, but Karen is done. She's out the door. So, because, you know, she's like, I did all I could for him. It was a mess. We're not even going to get to the details of it because just this episode was a lot. So that's one of the smaller things. Kato asked B-Mickie what it is with him and his gun. And at that moment, I knew that B-Mickie did not get rid of the gun that he used to kill J-Mo. He says it saved his mother from an abusive relationship, watched over him countless nights, crossing enemy territories, sealed countless deals. It's family. Kato's like, that's cute. I'm gonna leave y'all together and head home to get some clean clothes. So he's like, he'll ride with her. He's never even seen her spot. She asks him if he's catching feelings. He's like, he hits her with that, oh, like, what are we conversation? Like, we've been doing this, we've been doing that. What are we? Usually it's the woman, but this time it's B-Mickie. So she says the convo needs more time, and, you know, he can roll with her and he can drive because she is just trying to get him to shut his mouth. She doesn't want to talk about it. So Nicole, she brings a boy in the house. It's the boy Darius from the mall. He asks her if her parents are there and she says no, and neither are the guards. He is so square. It is too cute. And that's exactly what she needs with two dope boys for brothers. So they were about to kiss and Terry comes in and puts Darius out. He tells her she knows the rules. She calls double standards because Meech used to take girls to his room. You're not Meech. You're my baby sister. What were you doing in here that you can't be doing on the porch? Terry really does sound like somebody's daddy for sure. So she's like, the guards are spying. That's their job, Terry points out. She feels like she's in prison and she wonders when it'll be over. He's like, you know, gives her a hug, not too much longer. She's not buying it. She walks away. So Slick comes home to the crib. Ma, are you here? He says out loud, good. Let me get the F away from this black ass N-word. And then as he starts packing, we hear singing. It's Lamar. Slick finds him playing a video game and singing. He asks him how things went with Mo, and Lamar's like, she cut his water off. Made him realize the most precious thing in the world is his family. So he's going to bury one of Terry and Meech's loved ones. Slick's like, you think that's a good idea? Like, if we do that, it's more heat on us and we can't do what we need to do. So Lamar starts singing again and he walks in Slick's direction. Slick walks away. This crazy mother effer. So he's in the room packing. Man, I would have left all that ish right there. Got all new stuff. What are you getting? Underwears, t-shirts, left it all right there. So he puts his gun in his waist and he heads out the room and he's mumbling to himself, and Lamar is singing and catches him in the hallway and stabs him. And I mean stabs him to death. Like, how you let him stab you and you have a gun? Like, Slick tries to get away and Lamar basically sits there and watches him die on the floor. I was like, shit, this is some sick shit. And I really like Slick too. He was like the comic relief. It's crazy. Like, now who do you have? I mean, you didn't have anybody before, but now who do you have at all? So Kato, whose house is this, boo? I think they were at the trap house and it smells. There's mail, and B-Mickie notices a piece of paper that we couldn't read at the time. He looks annoyed and he's walking around. She asks if he's okay. He finds something. They're gonna go on a little date, blah, 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 who cares? So we see the fellas and they're playing dice, and Meech just, being flashy as ever, and Meech is just meeching and he's talking stuff. And I was thinking, like, I hope he doesn't get robbed, but that wasn't the case. He's there trying to talk business again with Q. And Q was like, I still haven't changed my mind. So they chop it up. And then Q finally was like, all right, let's make this money. So Lucille and Charles are waiting for Terry in his room and they have questions. How long have you been selling drugs with your brother? Charles is like, don't look at me. I never sold drugs a day in my life. So he's like, ever since Terry started. And she asked why. He was like, he was tired of how they were living. Charles defends their hard work. Terry's like, y'all have 4 jobs. And as he's talking, Lucille says, poverty is not a scapegoat for immorality. So Terry is looking out for him and his family. Charles is pissed off. They didn't raise these babies like that. So Lucille says the choice that you make in life will affect your choice you make in this life will affect us in the next. So if selling drugs is all y'all were doing, we wouldn't be in danger. I don't know, Lucille, you might still be, because people still try to steal and rob and everything else. But Charles asks if they murdered someone, and Terry's like, no. And Lucille's like, I'm worried about your soul, son. So they walk out. And we're at the church. So that was Tiny that was staying at the church. Correct me if I'm wrong, y'all. So he's having sex with some woman, and then she screams because they discover a dead body. When he turns on the light, it's Slick. So okay, so clearly not the one-hitter quitter that I was hoping for. Do y'all hear my voice? My phone decided to run out of storage, but we're going to pick up where we left off and try and piece this whole thing together. So last thing I said was they found Slick's body, right? Now, Terry meets up with the crew and he doesn't want to lose. What they do is on them. No more 50 boys, and then they sit there and they try to pick out some different names. You hear my voice? It's first thing in the morning. B-Mickie tells me she's tired of being in the dark, tired of being the third wheel, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, he ain't know the truth about the record store, and he feels like he's being punished for taking care of his mom. He's like, can you front me bricks like I'm a corner boy? Meech says he can make more money on the side and blah, blah, blah. B-Mickie ain't really with it, but he says, okay. Meech goes over and talks to Terry and says, listen, I thought we agreed to give B a key. Nah, Terry said he'd think about it. But he said, oh, he didn't tell you I gave it to him? He's like, you sold it to him at a discount. So Terry says giving him a key would have made him feel like he was equal, and he ain't. So besides, I think he's effing Kato. So Meech looks like, damn, like a little surprised. He's like, yeah, didn't know that, did you? So, and I'm surprised that they did not hear Lamar when he was on the phone with Kato in the last episode, but I guess we're not going to just go there. So Kato is in the car. She's asking B-Mickie why he stood her up. She says she's going to tell Meech and Terry what's going on. And she asked him if he's got cold feet. And he's like, nah, I figured I'd give you time for the other dude that you were sleeping with. So he stops the car and he pulls over and he pulls out that piece of paper that we saw him fine when he was at whatever house they were, the trap house, whatever. So it's like, quit ducking me. We need to talk, sign me. So she's like, it's not what he thinks. Her ex is hitting her up about drug money. B-Mickie says, so you've been staying with me hiding. And she's like, I don't want to get you involved. But he's like, as long as you with me, I got you. We both need somebody we could trust in this game. And then he says that he doesn't, Meech made him realize that he doesn't know how much longer he wants to work with him and T. So he's about to stray, and Kato was with him. They kiss and whatever in the car, and it looked like somebody was watching them, but we never see anything else. So Darius and Nicole are walking. They kiss. Nicole has the bright idea that she is going to ditch the security detail and lose him at the arcade. So they take off running. They're in like another street or alley or whatever, and they kiss again. And then Lamar rolls up and he's like, oh, it's something with your brother. And he goes to grab Nicole, but she recognizes him from the mall. So she screams and she struggles, and she's yelling for help. And Darius tries to get in the middle of it, and he stabs little Darius. She takes off running. And then Lamar tells the boy he's gonna cut his water off and hits him again. He gets in his car, drives off. Nicole comes back out. She's screaming. She's crying for help. Couple people come out, and older Meech narrates, we spend so much time trying to prepare for graduation that we oftentimes aren't prepared for what comes next. And that's where the episode ends. And like I said, every episode, they're going to turn up that heat. I think we got 2 more to the end of the season. I have so many questions still left. We got a break, but I hope that you'll come back here and join me in 2 weeks. Put your thoughts and questions down in the comments for me. While you're here, check out some of my other content. Thank you. Before you go, like, subscribe, share. And if you made it to the end, which I barely made it to, drop me an emoji B in the comments. I appreciate you. Peace.